Havoc Demon Hunters have some extremely powerful and in some cases flat out broken mechanics in their arsenal. In this video, I'll show you the hidden tricks that pro players use, as well as some key mistakes that you need to avoid in Mythic Plus dungeons of Dragonflight Season 3. This will help you do more damage, survive one-shot mechanics, and make your group's life so much easier in those high keys. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Felfire Gaze channel. If you enjoy the content, comment, like and subscribe, and let's get into the video. In Murozond Rise, you can completely immune the debuff of the first boss using Metamorphosis. Make sure you jump in the air right as the cast goes off and hope that boss targets you with one of the two debuffs. Do not forget that in the speedrun gauntlet you can still use Fell Rush. Although you move very fast, Fell Rush is even faster. Many groups choose to AoE CC the ads on Mortsi. As a Havoc, you can contribute to this strategy using Sigil of Misery. However, even if your group does not go for this strategy, you can use Fear and Cage to CC ads and delay the explosions. In Time Lost Battlefield, you need to stop the Axe Throwers or the Night Elf Archers at any cost. Sometimes you have to do so while simultaneously baiting Shockwave to a good position. You can utilize your range CC to stop the Axe Throwers with Fear, Cage or Fell Eruption. If the boss is close to dying, make sure you hard CC any new ads before finishing the boss. When the last boss spawns the double ads, you can aim the hand properly to spread the debuff to all three targets by charging through them in a straight line. Following that, you enter the hardest part of the fight healing wise, where you are all spread out, you have orbs exploding and two ads doing damage. It is a very good place to use darkness to save your teammates. In Waycrest Manor, you can interrupt the channel of the big witch called Runeweaver. Here you see I'm targeted by Edge, and the moment I press Shadow Melt, the channel is interrupted and the damage stops. On the first boss, you can use Metamorphosis Jump to immune either the application or the explosion of the unstable runic mark if you time it properly. Also, when Sister Briar has the Iris, you can use Netherwalk to completely immune the Jack Needles and prevent the application of the debuff. On Soulbound Goliath, you can use Metamorphosis Jump to completely immune the application of the debuff of Soul Thorns. Make sure you jump in the air right at the moment where the cast finishes and hope for the RNG to send the debuff to you. If you don't have Metamorphosis available, then you can use defensive cooldowns and hope that the debuff goes on you. Like here, where I pop Blair at the end of the Soulthorn cast and make my healer's life way easier. Towards the end of the fight, where you know that you are not gonna need any more defensive cooldowns, you can even pop Netherwalk proactively, like here, where I completely immune the Soulthorn damage while my teammates get me out. On Lord and Lady Waycrest, you can use the Invisible Wall to Fell Rush and Vengeful Retreat without moving to get inertia and initiative. It's a good idea to use all your mobility spells before the big AoE of the witch that spawns the purple circles on the ground, so you can focus on dodging. You can also use the Mortal Dance talent for reduced healing, so that Vitality Transfer only heals Lord Waycrest to 80% instead of 100. In Atal'Dazar, be very careful when you're using your mobility for damage when there are Berserkers around, because they might charge you and they might one-shot you. Here, you see I do a backflip to do the Essence Break combo, and the Berserker will charge exactly at the position that I was 1 second ago. In high keys, this might one-shot you. When the Colossus targets you with a laser beam, you can use Shadow Melt to completely negate the mechanic. So you see here, the Colossus will slowly target me and start casting Soulburn, and then I Shadow Melt and the cast stops immediately. When Rezan, the dinosaur boss, starts fixating on you, you can use Shadow Melt to break his cast. So he casts Pursuit, he moves towards me, I wait a second just to be sure, then I press Shadow Melt and the boss goes back to the tank. For some weird reason, you can use the same trick to break the fixate for other people. So here you see Rezan focusing on my mage, Philip, starts fixating, I wait 1 second, I meld and I break the fixate. Before the totem boss, Vocal, everybody wants to skip this pack and you can do it by simply caging the ad to the left or the right and hugging the wall. The edges of Vocal's platform are invisible walls that you can use to Fell Rush and Vengeful Retreat for damage without moving. However, you cannot do that on the gate because you will pull the mobs that you skipped earlier. When we pull Yazma, I use everything with Bloodlust except the hand, which I save for the first ads. And the way you wanna use it is when the boss casts the ability, you move behind all the other players of your group, you precast the hand, you move through all the adds and dot them for massive damage. After that, you wanna save I-Beam and Essence Break for every single add wave, which comes exactly every 40 seconds. Ideally, you should save Sigil of Flame as well. When Yazma casts Wrecking Pain on you, if you don't have any defensive cooldowns, you can use Shadow Meld to force her to recast it on a different target. In Galakrond's Fall, on the platform of the second boss, you can completely immune the Chrono Burst explosion by jumping outside the map and then returning back. Backflip makes it really easy. After the second boss, you can skip the dragon using just your mobility. This is the exact same thing that you would be doing by using a Warlock Gate, but it's exclusive to Havoc. If the third boss targets you with Corrosive Infusion, which is the green orb, you can completely immune it using Shadow Meld. This will stop so much damage from your group and is typically worth doing either during phase 2 or phase 3. As a bonus tip, when the first boss starts jumping, be careful with using Fellblade or this might happen. If you made it till here, you enjoy the video and you wanna support me, comment, like and subscribe to help me grow the Felfire Gaze channel and create more Havoc Demon Hunter content. In Darkheart Thicket, we start with skipping the double bear before the first boss. Normally you can do this with Invisibility Potion, but as Havoc you can do it with double jump and vengeful retreat. Please be warned that this is a very dangerous skip and you might end up dying. The area after the first boss has a lot of inefficient trash that most people want to skip, and Havoc is very good at doing it. You can Sigil of Misery this pack, and then you move on, everyone goes through, and only you are in combat with the pack, and then you Shadow Meld and you drop combat. Then you can cage this Dryad, so you can skip this pack as well. The next part only has flowers, so most people do it, and after that they aim to skip the double keeper here. Especially on fortified weeks, this pack takes forever and it has really low count, so nobody wants to do it. So you move through and you Shadow Meld. Now be careful of the patrol, because if it's too close, you might be unable to skip. After you kill the third boss, there are a lot of dangerous packs that you might want to skip. So there is the possibility to skip these 3 mobs here and only do the following pack. And you can do it typically with Misery and Meld, but this is a patrolling group, so you might also want to cage this guy here. You move past the group and then you Meld. I don't have Meld, it's in 1 second. You Meld, and now fear is removed from everything, and I dropped combat with all of these mobs, but the summoner is still caged. So this means that he's not moving, and the imps that are following him are not moving either. I put him on focus, so I do have that in mind. I do have in mind that in 30 seconds the patrol will be loose, but before that my cage will be back off cooldown. So while I'm fighting this group here, I need to have it on focus and keep it in mind, because they will start patrolling towards us. And when this timer goes lower, I need to come back during the fight, Fell Rush maybe, and come closer here, be careful, and reactivate cage. This is for as long as we fight this pack here, because the patrol of these mobs stops roughly here. So when we're done with this and we're moving past them towards the bats, then there's no more need. The other option would be to engage and kill the patrol here, which is a small group, only 3 targets, and then skip the following one. Again, with Sigil, don't go too close, otherwise you will pull aggro. Everyone goes through, you're here, you Meld, it's over. I have not managed to skip the bats here, because they're too spread out and they're patrolling, so you cannot really fear them all at the same time, you see here. But normally you don't want to skip the bats, they're not that bad, and you might want to skip this last pack here, which is very dangerous. Here you can fear everything, you pass through, and you Meld. You can use Shadow Meld or Metamorphosis to immune all abilities of Shade of Xavius. So here he targets me, I Meld the Nightmare Bolt, so I remove it. And then as you will see at the end of the fight, where Meld is back off cooldown, he targets me again, he casts Nightmare Bolt, and I Meld it again. In Throne of the Tides, you can Shadow Meld the heal absorb of the Sentinel mob to force it on a different target. If the mob is close to dying, you can totally skip the mechanic. The intermission of the first boss can be extremely annoying for our movement heavy playstyle. Make sure you use one Fell Rush or one Vengeful Retreat between each set of geysers to make your life so much easier in this phase. It's extremely efficient to skip the first pack of goblins guarding the gauntlet to the last boss. So you Sigil of Misery, you walk through, your team walks through, and you Shadow Melt. Make sure you don't pull anything else too early or your skip might fail. On the first boss of Blackrock Hold, your glaives will bounce to the adds with a very large range. So if the adds start moving towards the boss, you will passively cleave them. So if you're using the strategy with roots from the Resto Druid, you might want to consider stop using Blade Dance and Throw Glaive for a while in order to extend the phase. On the second boss, Ilisana Ravencrest, make sure you use the walls to Fell Rush and Vengeful Retreat without moving. And when you're targeted by Dark Rush, pop Blare or Darkness. When you climb the staircase to get to the third and the last boss, keep in mind that there is no invisible wall towards the inner side and you will fall off. So instead, use your mobility towards the wall in the outer side of the staircase. On the last boss, you can Shadow Melt the Stinging Swarm to force the boss to cast it on a different target, like here where it was cast on my mage. However, in some cases the boss will recast on you. Finally, you can use Metamorphosis to completely immune the application of the Stinging Swarm. Make sure you fly in the air when the cast finishes and you save your group a lot of damage. In Everbloom, you can use your Shadow Melt to immune the damage from the Abomination's AoE ability. So in this pack you see we have 2 Abominations and the one starts casting, and at the end of the cast you press Shadow Melt exactly at the end and you immune it, and I only get hit by the second one. On second boss, make sure you spread the dot of the hand to all 3 targets. So you start from that side of the room and you make sure you travel through all 3 bosses. Later in the fight, when the hand comes back off cooldown and you are forced out of melee range to drop paddle, you can again travel through all 3 bosses to spread the dot. A critical moment in the second boss fight is when the main target starts to casting the AoE and the off target is free casting bolts on everyone. This is where you should definitely pop Darkness, so make sure that after you are forced out of melee range and the paddles are done, then you drop Darkness to save your team. The third boss does huge damage on pull, especially when your healer is not prepared, while there is no other mechanic going on, so it's a really good idea to Darkness right on pull while everyone stacks on the boss. I hope the tips in this video will help you blast those high-end plus keys and get that sweet rating. If you learned anything valuable, please comment, like and subscribe. And if you wanna know how to maximize your gear to do the most damage in Mythic Plus and Dragonfly Season 3, then check this video.